Alpha. Welcome to the first live stream of Black Friday. I want to welcome everyone. Jacques sitting here and Saraz from TTL is also sitting here. We're going to go through some presentations. Just before we get there, I actually want to tell you about the Black Friday deals that we've got going on. So the first thing is the deals are massive and they're super aggressive. So there's savings up to 12,500 Rand on some Sony purchases. So check in with your local retailer. I'm not going to mention them now. There's a huge list of it. The A7S III and the A7C is not involved because they're currently already on promotion with the microphone coming with the A7S III and also the A7C coming with a 50mm lens. So for now, I'm just going to have them introduce themselves and then we'll get going. Go for it.
Thank you, Herman. Ross.
Thank you, Herman. How's it, guys? Thank you so much for joining us. And we are amped to be here to get this live webinar going.
So, Ross, what do you do? Who are you?
I am Fatima's husband.
Okay.
That's my name in the industry. My wife, Fatima, and I, we are TTL Photography. We are wedding photographers based in Durban. We've been doing weddings for the past 9 years, and we've been blessed to have hit a sector of the market that really spends money. So we're very grateful for that. And your side, Jacques?
Awesome. Okay, so I am Jacques. I make videos for a living. I specialize in tourism, travel, and adventure films. I've been with Sony for about 6 years now, so definitely bought into the brand early and just been amazing through the years to see them innovate and adapt. And yeah, I'm just like what they would call a passion preacher. And it's a massive privilege to be an ambassador and to be next to guys like you, like high level, some really awesome individuals. You guys must go check out the Alpha universe. There's so many cool ambassadors, everyone with their own genre and own unique style. And yeah, it's just a privilege to be talking and to be walking amongst giants like this guy.
And it's not only ambassadors from South Africa. Thank you, Jacques. Bank account details, right?
Yeah.
On the Sony Alpha universe, you've got ambassadors from the whole Middle East and Africa. So it's not only local ambassadors. So go and have a look. Like Jacques said, there's a multitude of genres, and any questions you have, I'm pretty sure you'll find it on the Alpha universe, answers to it.
And also, it's a really great resource. Some people think they miss one live event, it's the end, they'll never see it again. It's not like that. It's something you must continually watch. There's always a button that says past events. So if you miss something, just go to past events. There's a wealth of information, free education from all our ambassadors. So it's really a great place for learning, a resource for learning.
And you can also check the schedule for up and coming events, so you can plan which events you want to see. It does get added to your Google calendar, I think so. You will get reminders the minute you register and then just add to your calendar.
Awesome.
So actually, before we go into the presentation of Jacques, we'll start off with him. I just want to let you guys know, we are specifically talking about G Master today. So we're focusing on the lens range of Sony, specifically also G Master. So your questions can be directed towards them and what they do for a living, or then of course, today is going to be quite technical. So I'm going to go into Jacques' presentation now. And also last thing, if you guys see me looking down here, it basically just means that I'm managing the stream from here. So I apologize if it feels rude or something. It's just like the stream is happening here, the switching of the cameras are happening here, and all the questions and stuff is happening here. So I'm going to switch over to Jacques' presentation and I'm going to have him kick off this thing for us.
Thanks, Herman. So on that note, I want to start by saying that I'm going to focus this presentation on video. I know we have a lot of photographers under the ambassadors, and tonight I'm just going to share with you a little bit about video and how I found the G Masters to take my work to the next level. So before I start, I want to share just a little story on when I actually switched from normal lenses to G Master lenses, because there's clearly a difference. I will be talking about that. But where it started is I used to shoot on third-party lenses and not even Sony mounts, like Canon mounts, other brands, and I used to adapt it. And then over the years, Sony just came out with these amazing high-quality lenses. And I remember the first day I put on a G Master lens on my camera, it was like drinking your first cup of freshly ground coffee. It's like the difference between instant coffee. I immediately saw the difference. From the moment even on the camera, and when I went into post, I could see it. in the sharpness, in the color rendition, in the corner to corner. So I'm going to be sharing that with you. But I really do believe that there is such a clear difference between G Master and everything else. And the moment you put it on your camera, you'll see the difference. And it's like that logo, it means something. It's not just another lens. It's truly special. It's the highest end that you can buy and glass that you can put on your camera. So on that note, I'm going to share with you 5 reasons why I feel G Masters are superior compared to any other lenses that I've shot with. The first is the focusing. I come from a background where I used to manual focus everything, and then over the years, Sony's gotten so incredibly good with autofocus that I do believe that they are the leaders in autofocus, and I'm specifically referring to video. That has become so good that I rely on it. I depend on autofocus more than ever before. About 90% of the time, I rely on autofocus. There are some instances where you 100% have to switch autofocus off. But most of the time, I want to have it on because it's reliable. And that being said, the G Masters by far have the fastest autofocus. If you compare it to any other third-party lens, other brands, there are lots of other brands that even make lenses for Sony mount, but they just don't have that exact same speed. And it's not just about focusing speed. It's about the sound on the inside. It's dead quiet because it's made for these cameras. And the focus speed, they made the speed to keep up with the fastest cameras. So the A9 Mark II, the fastest autofocus, all the lenses can keep up to that. So just a really, really high standard in terms of focus. And when you put on a G Master lens, you're guaranteed to get the best autofocus. So that's one of the main reasons why I think the G Masters are superior. Okay, sharpness. So again, there's a difference. The moment you go from, you get what you pay for, you get what you pay for. What makes a G Master so amazing is that even at lower apertures, I mean, the lowest, wide open apertures, you're still getting groundbreaking performance. Sharpness, corner to corner, edge to edge, you're getting on your wide lenses, on your portrait lenses, you can shoot as wide open as you wish. And you're not compromising on softness. You're not getting a softer image. In the corners, you can't even see that. You have to pixel peep to see the difference. Where I know with some other lenses that I've used in the past, you can clearly see when it's just getting soft and it's just some distortion in the corners. And this is not the case with G Master lens. So I really love that. Is that sharpness that you get when shooting at the lowest apertures. And I love shooting shallow depth of field. It's part of the cinematic experience to have a full frame camera with a lot of depth, shallow depth of field, and to just push my lens to the limits. If it's a 1.8, I'm going to shoot on 1.8. 1.2, that's what I'm going to shoot. I love that. And knowing that the lens is going to perform at the highest level at that aperture, that's what is what makes it so cool. Next, we've got the same. I mentioned the distortion. So I've found exactly especially in the wide lenses, a lot of lenses, when you go to the widest angle, so we're referring to the zoom lenses, Sony's got incredible range of zoom lenses from the 12-24, 2.8 is in a class of its own, the 16-35, something I use a lot for my landscape work. When I started doing time lapses, I remember I was in Patagonia when I started doing time lapses with my first 16-35 G Master, and I saw the corners, the distortion is just, it's like square. It's just so nice to not have to worry about distortion and have a really pleasing image when you look at the overall image, and it's just not an issue. Okay. Chromatic aberration. Now, chromatic aberration is a problem for a lot of lenses, especially if you shoot at a low aperture, so like shooting wide open. And I have encountered this in the past with some of my older lenses, especially with previous brands. I've had some really bad issues with chromatic aberration. Now, if you don't know what that is also referred to as purple fringing. Now, Why is it important to have no or low chromatic aberration? Because in photography, you can fix it. To a certain extent, you can fix it. Lightroom, Photoshop. In video, sometimes it's impossible. It depends on the scene, but it's really difficult. I'm on DaVinci Resolve right now, and that kind of makes it possible, but you have to put a lot of work into trying to take it out. With the G Master lens, you don't have to, because it's not there. Say goodbye to chromatic aberration. The purple fringe is no more. And this I found especially shooting into backlit situations with at a low aperture, wide open. There's some examples that I'll show. I will show you guys some examples after this. Just some video clips where this is the case. Just where I usually encountered purple fringing, now I don't. And I have confidence to shoot into the backlight and to open wide open and still get that shallow depth of field without compromise. So that's one of the things. And then last but not least, G Master lenses are future proof. Okay. What I'm saying by that is the optics, it's ahead of its time. Sony's been developing these lenses for a few years now, okay? And when they make a G Master lens, this lens is actually compatible with anything in the future. When I'm saying high pixels, high resolutions, it doesn't matter what's the resolution. Some lenses are just working on the current camera systems, but in the future, they will be too soft. They won't be able to get the same detail. For example, the A7R is growing in megapixels with every release. And I've actually seen by putting on an older lens from another brand, how you're not able to get the full potential. So the optics of these cameras, the optics of these lenses are in the highest class. You're getting the best amount of quality, and you know that it's going to carry through for years to come. And that's what I love about Sony, is the one mount philosophy. Is that you know that if you're buying a G Master now, they are going to stick with this lens. They recently made this commitment saying, we are sticking to one mount. So whether you have an APS-C body, a full frame body, or the highest top end cinema camera, as you go through the years and you progress and buy higher end cameras, your G Master lens will be future proof. It's gonna stay on that camera. So you're investing, it's an investment. And that's how I look at the G Master series. Yes, they are expensive, but it's an investment. You're paying for all those 5 things that I mentioned, and you know that it's gonna last. And bodies, they get old. Some newer cameras come out. The lens, you buy it once and you have it for a lifetime. And that's just why I love the G Masters. Okay, so I'm going to share with you guys just 5 examples. Most of them, I just want to think, most of them was taken in Patagonia. The reason why I'm sharing this specific trip with you is because this was the first trip where all my lenses were G Master. And that's where I really felt what it feels like to have a full kit of G Master lenses. There's one clip that's not from Patagonia, but I'll elaborate about that one in the end. So first up, we've got a video clip here. I'll just play it. It's a fox. It was on a small island in Patagonia, the Chilean side of Patagonia. And I really love this shot because it was just such a cool encounter I had with this little fox. And what I want to elaborate about the shot is just the fact that this was shot handheld on the 70-200. And yeah, first of all, if you look at that bokeh, that's absolutely incredible. This is the G Master F4. And I want to pause here for a moment. As a videographer, I recommend and prefer the F4 over the 2.8. I had a 2.8 prior to the F4, not the G Master, and I sold it because it's too heavy and I shoot handheld a lot. And this shot was exactly one of those reasons. It's just difficult to handle. And when I switched to the F4, the first thing I realized was that you still get incredible depth of field, and that's that full frame sensor. When you zoom into 200mm, you're getting an incredible depth of field. And just the overall sharpness, and look how steady that shot is. It's just absolutely, in the past, I would have never been able to get a shot like this. And again, the autofocus, just nailing the shot. I'm not even concentrating on the focus, I'm just focusing on the frame. And that's why I love the shot. I can look at it over and over and over. It's just one of my favorite moments ever in filmmaking. Okay, next up, we've got this shot. So there's two shots here, but it's going to go on repeat. So I'll just play it so you guys can see. So reason why I'm showing you both is just I've got on here the 16-35. So the 16-35 2.8 lens, G Master. This was the first trip where I had this lens, and I put it on the gimbal on day one, and I was absolutely blown away by how much I was able to shoot on this lens without putting on any other lens, because usually I would have seen it as a wide lens. It's too wide, but I ended up shooting a lot of stuff on this lens without changing. And the reason for that is even at 35mm 2.8 in the second frame, you can see I'm still getting a really nice shallow depth of field, that's amazing that you're able to get that shallow depth of field with a 16-35, and that's the 2.8. Secondly, if you look at the shot again, the second shot, the close-up, you'll see there's no purple fringing, no chromatic aberration, and the direct backlight hitting the subject. And that's usually where you would encounter this. So for me, this is just one of the first shoots that I did with the 16-35, and I was able to get the wide and the close-up really quickly by just zooming in. And yeah, it's just incredible that you're able to do that on the G Master. Okay, next example, we have this. I love this. This is one of my favorite shots also. Again, Patagonia. If you look at this shot, I'm going to play it. You'll see that, okay, so the ice is falling, and I kept rolling because that's one of the rules when filming anything outside is never stop. Always keep rolling for a little bit longer. And that's when the second block of ice fell, which you'll see it's going to happen now. I was like, what? That's cool. So that happened. This was taken from a boat. And just to reiterate my point that I made earlier, this was taken on a 16-35. Okay? I know it doesn't look like that, but this is the 16-35. This is at 35mm in APS-C mode. And this is what I love about Sony cameras. The ability to crop in without losing any quality. This is shot in 4K. Even in 4K, you're not losing a pixel of quality. This is not clear image zoom. This is just switching to APS-C, and it's one button and it goes in. And you're able to get a kind of a telephoto shot like this with just one lens. So I'll be talking about zooms a little bit more after this, but I have come to love zooms, and having that freedom to crop in is just amazing. Okay, the last example, this is the second last example. This is also in Patagonia. So that island that you see over there, that's actually where our hotel was. So we stayed on that island, and then we hiked up in the morning for sunrise to get this. The reason I'm showing you this is because this is the trip where I started really taking my time-lapse more serious. It was also when the A7R3, they gave a firmware update for the built-in intervalometer. And that's when I started focusing on time-lapse. And the reason I'm showing you this is because it's the 16mm on 16mm. You're getting that, you don't see any distortion. It's just a really nice wide shot. So I was able to capture that entire scene. Those mountains are massive, and the scale of that lake is just, yeah, to be able to get that in the 16mm in a time lapse like this. When you go and inspect the corners, just no issues. Like the distortion is just not a problem. Then the last shot I want to show, this is one of my favorite videos that I ever made. This, I'm just going to play it. It's going to play over and over. This video is the first video I ever shot on the A7S Mark III. It's Sony gave it to us to shoot pre-launch for the launch video. And this was my video. In case you haven't seen it yet, it's on my YouTube channel and also on the Sony Middle East Africa YouTube channel. It's titled No Limits. The reason I'm showing you this is because this was the first shoot where I challenged myself. To only shoot with zoom lenses. So for that entire shoot, I only used the 24-70mm G Master and the 70-200 G Master, the f4. I did that entire shoot on those two lenses. And I ended up shooting about 80% of the shots on the 24-70. And if you look at it, first of all, look at the focusing speed. It's incredible how seamless, how fast it picks up the eye and just nails the focus. But the second thing is the depth of field. So the reason I've always loved and using primes is because of that depth of field that you get. You can go 1.4, get that really shallow depth of field. But what I've found is that even on the 35, like I mentioned earlier, or on this, in this case, the 70mm, 24 to 70, on 70mm 2.8, you're getting really, really beautiful bokeh. And I can look at this shot the whole day. I just love that bokeh that you get. And that's, again, comes with the full frame, but just absolutely right now, loving the 24 to 70mm G Master. So yeah, that's it from me, guys. There's just 5 shots that I really love about shooting on G Master lenses. There's a lot more to be said. Hopefully we'll be answering some of your questions. So if you do have questions, please ask. I'd love to answer anything regarding that. But yeah, thanks. That's it from me. Over to you, Saras.
My presentation as well is obviously on 5 steps ahead. Why Sony G Master lenses are 5 steps ahead. There will be certain things that Jacques has touched on that I will touch on as well, but I'm looking at it from a photography perspective. So my first point on why G Master lenses are 5 steps ahead is image quality. Jacques has spoken about it for video. We love the image quality we're getting off these lenses. That first image was taken at one of our recent weddings. As you can see, it's shot on a 70-200 G Master at f2.8. The one thing that I want to emphasize, and it's something that Jacques said as well, you get what you pay for. These lenses optically have been optimized to work seamlessly with the Sony range of cameras. If you are going to buy a really expensive camera with a good sensor and slap on a cheap lens, you are wasting megapixels, because that lens will not be able to resolve the full resolution of the sensor that you bought in the camera, I should say. And this is what you're getting when you are buying into the G Master lens series of lenses. The shot that's up now, that was shot at f2.8. You can see the background separation. You can see the detail on the bride and on her dress, and that's what we look for as wedding photographers. The second image that I've got up now, when lockdown happened and all our weddings were postponed, I decided that what I'd do is I'd go to the beach over the weekend and I would just shoot whatever I see. This shot was taken on the 16-35 f2.8 G Master, and again, when I got home, I knew these lenses were good, but you know, I'm sure Jacques would agree with me. When you upload your footage or your images and you actually get more than what you expected, I was absolutely blown away by the images that I got from these lenses. So that was shot at 35 on f4.5 at ISO 100. And the reason I always try to keep my ISO low there as well is because of dynamic range. These lenses, coupled with the Sony range of cameras, will give you, well, the cameras give you 15 stuff to dynamic range, but your lens still needs to resolve all that data. That's one thing to remember. So again, one of the reasons why you should be looking at these G Master lenses. Third shot, 16-35 f2.8. This again was one of my beach escapades. I was actually just watching the sunrise, and as I was sitting waiting for something to happen, I saw these silhouettes of people walking past. I picked up the camera. I'm not going to go into the settings, but I just picked up the camera, took the shot. This is, I think, one of 5 that I took on that morning, and I was blown away. And it wasn't a case of having to fight to get the image that I want. All I needed to do was get my framing, get my focusing, and I knew I was walking away with good images. So there you go. Second point is build quality. I'm going to go through it a bit quicker because Jacques has touched on quite a few things. Build quality, these lenses are built like tanks. I come from, when I started photography, I started shooting on film. I'm that old. And one of my favorite lenses was a Minolta lens. It was the 70-210. It's called the beer can because when it was released, it was about the size of an American beer can. It's a full metal lens. And I've got 2 copies of that lens. I dropped them. They fell off the table, I don't know how many times. No dents, nothing wrong with the optics. Absolutely built like a tank. That's what you get with these G Master lenses. Again, you get what you pay for. Everything, it's dust sealed, it's moisture sealed. These are things you need, especially if you're doing paid work, especially if you're out in the field. You don't want things that will break easily. And when you buy into the G Master lenses, you know that they can take a bit of a knock. I'm not saying you should be knocking your kit around though, but you can go out there and confidently do what you need to do. Third slide is versatility. One of the things that I like about what Sony's done is they've looked at their fastest autofocusing camera and they've decided that the lenses should keep up with that autofocus. So what one of the not innovations, but one of the things they've done with the G Master lenses initially was they moved away from the screw type autofocus, where it would be gears and cogs that turn and then your lens would autofocus, and they've incorporated linear motors. So basically it's electromagnetic shafts that push and pull. It's way faster than the screw type. So what they've done is, if you look at the 24mm and you look at the 135mm, the 24mm and 135 have got XD linear motors. So those are ultra fast linear motors. So that means those lenses are able to keep up with the Sony A9 II in autofocus. It's no use having a fast autofocusing camera and your lens doesn't focus fast enough. So again, it's just Sony innovating, forward-thinking, future-proofing. One of the things that I also want to mention under versatility is Marlon and Richard had their live on Tuesday, and Marlon's favorite lens he mentioned was the 135. So effectively, with the XT linear motor lenses in the 135 lens, that 135mm lens is normally a portrait lens, and a lot of times portrait lenses don't autofocus very fast. But because that lens has got the XT linear motor, you can now use it for portraits, and I've seen people use it for sports photography and wildlife. So it gives you that broad range of versatility. It's not just the case of, you know what, I can only use this lens in studio. That's, again, one of the cool things about the G Master lenses. 24mm f1.4 G Master. This was a fashion shoot. Normally, you wouldn't do fashion portraits with a 24mm, but the distortion control on this 24mm is absolutely amazing. So once again, you are not tied into using certain lenses which are traditional lenses for the genre that you're shooting in. And what we found is, because of the versatility of these lenses, the other options are open to you now. So your creativity, there's an overflow of creativity, because now it's a case of, you know what, we can do this because this lens does that. So you're not tied and bound by the rules, if you get what I'm saying. One of the things that we always mention at our workshops is push the boundaries and break the rules. Obviously, you need to know when to break them, but that's what you should be doing. And that's what these lenses allow you to do. It allows you to push the boundaries. It allows you to break the rules, where you can use lenses that you wouldn't thought or wouldn't think or would be useful in certain situations. Future-proofing, I think I jumped the gun, but everything I just mentioned now all boils down to future-proofing. The optics of these lenses have been made to resolve up to 150 megapixels. So I don't know when we'll ever have full-frame cameras with those kind of sensors. I'm sure Sony's working on it, the way they're innovating, but up to 150 megapixels. So whether you're using an A7S3, whether you're using the A7 III, R3, R4, A9 II, you know for a fact that these G Master lenses will resolve every megapixel on your sensor. And that's what you want. That's when you upload your images and it's wow. Because a lot of times you don't tend to appreciate the image on the back of a viewfinder. But the minute you upload it and see the detail these lenses resolve, trust me, you'll be blown away by the results. And then sharpness. You know, it's something that some people say are overrated. And to a certain extent, I agree it's overrated under certain circumstances. But the image that I've put up here now, there's two images. The first image is shot at f1.4. If you look at where I focused on, and unfortunately I can't zoom in now, but if you zoom in, you'll see it's pin sharp on the edge of that glass. Second image as well, also shot at f1.4. I focused on the flower decal that's on the centerpiece. And again, if I was able to zoom in, you'll be able to see just how sharp that image is. It's something that ties in with versatility. For example, if you're getting edge-to-edge sharpness, you don't have to worry about focusing and then recomposing. You can actually frame your image like you want. You can have your subject in the corner and not worry about a drop-off in sharpness. That's what we love about these lenses. So again, it's just an overflow of creativity because now those options are available to you. It's not a case of, you know what, I need to step back so I can take a wider shot and then I'll crop in edit. No, now you can frame to get it right in shot, in camera. And in that way, when you upload your images, it's a more efficient workflow. So you've got better color, you can frame properly. If you ask any photographer or any videographer, the ultimate goal here is for an efficient workflow. And that's what Sony does. They've looked at certain lenses and the inherent qualities of certain lenses. The 24mm lens, for example, if you were to take any 24mm lens other than the 24mm G Master and do a shot of the horizon, you'd see the horizon would bow. With the 24mm G Master, the horizon is bog straight. So it's something that I don't have to worry about in post. Distortion control on all the wide lenses, it's something that I don't have to worry about. You have to be cognizant of how you frame your shots with wide angle lenses, but there's certain things when it comes to distortion that Sony has really worked on, and they've removed that from something that you need to worry about. And in that way, again, you can, the sky's the limit. You can use 24mm to shoot fashion portraits. We've used a 20mm to shoot bridal portraits. That was what we've never heard of, people shooting bridal portraits with a 20mm. And the images came out stunning. So all of these things, these are the factors that you should be looking at when considering what lenses should I buy. A lot of times people go out and buy the most expensive camera and then they'll skimp on the lenses. When you should be doing the reverse, you should be looking at a camera that's good, but then I need better glass because your glass is what's going to give you that image. You can have a good camera with a crappy lens, it will give you crappy images. If you have a mediocre camera with a good lens, you're going to get brilliant images. That's one thing to remember. I've just got a few G Master stories, 2 G Master stories that I just want to go over. My first story was during lockdown as well. I asked Sony to loan me the 400mm f2.8. It's a lens that I never shot with. What I did was I decided, you know what, I want to shoot with lenses I've never used just to see what it's like. If I don't like them, then at least I've used them. So I went down to the beach one day and it was in winter. It was quite chilly, which was a bit odd for Durban. But because it was overcast, I knew that there would be no glare and reflection coming off the ocean. And there would be surfers. There's always surfers, no matter what the weather is. So I went down with the 400mm G Master, coupled with my A9 II. And what happened was I saw a father teaching 2 boys. It turned out one of the boys wasn't his son, it was a friend's son, but he was basically teaching them how to surf. The speed of that A9 II's autofocus is absolutely amazing. If you couple that with the speed of the 400mm, now firstly, the 400mm, the first time I picked up a 400mm was at one of the Sony functions. I thought it was a dummy. It was that light. I actually asked the guy, you know what, is this the dummy? Where's the real one? And he laughed. He said, no, that's the lens. So anyone who's ever shot with legacy 400mm lenses will tell you, they don't weigh a ton. They weigh more than a ton. What Sony's done is Sony has looked at ways of lightening the lenses. And not only that, they've moved the elements closer to the center of the lens. So the lens is more balanced. The older lenses, all the elements are bunched to the front. So your lens is more front heavy. So in that way, you'd normally be using a monopod. So your elements would be sitting over the monopod. So it's very, very well balanced. This first shot is, there's 3 images I have up here. F2.8, ISO 400, and shutter speed of 1250. This happened very quickly. So the speed of the camera and the lens just worked in my favor. That's the first image that I've got up. Second image, you can see, obviously settings hasn't changed. And then the third image. When he was done, I actually approached him and I got his contact details and I showed him the back of the camera. He was blown away. So what I did was I got his contact details. I edited the image, uploaded them to an online gallery, and I sent him the link to download. And I know he actually printed canvases of these. When I saw it, I knew immediately these would make such good memories for these kids. The second story I have is about 2 years ago, it's a year ago. Fatima and I decided we're going to Turkey, and we decided one camera body each with one lens. Fatima took the 55mm f1.8. I took my favorite 16 to 35 G Master, and I had my favorite lens. My favorite camera, I should say, is the A7R III. I love that 42 megapixel sensor. It's absolutely amazing. The reason I took this was I'm a history buff. For me, Turkey is Hagia Sophia. If you've never been to Hagia Sophia, do yourself a favor. That should be on your bucket list. That structure is absolutely amazing. So for me, it's a case of I wanted Hagia Sophia and I wanted vistas. That internal space, images do not do justice to that space. It is massive. And that's why I took the 16 to 35. If you look at the settings, my settings were off because I was that excited to be there. I shot it at f2.8. I shouldn't have shot it at 2.8. I should have closed down my aperture slightly. But even at f2.8, the amount of detail that I got out of the lens and the camera, I was absolutely blown away. You can see the settings: 16mm f2.8, 125 shutter speed, ISO of 1000. While we were there, unfortunately, they were still busy renovating, so you've got the scaffolding in the image. But I was blown away. I loved that image. Second image as well. This is taken in a mosque in Turkey. This was just before afternoon prayers. I sat and I wasn't going to take any images. I was going to sit waiting for prayers. But when I looked up, I don't know if in the image you can see the difference in color above the lights and below the lights. And that's what caught my eye. I took the camera, set it up, and took the image. There's 3 images in the series that I took in this mosque. But I just loved that difference in color. And that's what you get with these lenses. You get those colors, proper true colors. Third image is from Cappadocia. We were unfortunate not to be able to go up in the hot air balloons because everything was booked out. So what we did was we went to the launch sites and we just went to take pics of the balloons taking off. And again, 16 to 35 f2.8, ISO of 3200. If I have to zoom in, you can see minimal noise. Again, a combination of a good sensor with a good lens. And that is something that you should always be thinking about. And I'm going to end off with 5 of my best images. Turkey for me was just a highlight. And I wanted to capture one image that for me encapsulated what Hagia Sophia is. If you know about the history of Hagia Sophia, you know that it was a cathedral. The Muslims conquered Constantinople and it became a mosque. But they never destroyed any of the artwork in the cathedral, the frescoes in the cathedral. So I was walking around looking for interesting light, but I was also walking around looking for an interesting angle that would capture exactly what Hagia Sophia is. And when I went to the front, I saw this image and I saw the frame and I took the image. Because for me, you've got the mimbar, which is the Muslim pulpit where sermons are given from. And in the background, you've got a fresco of Mary and baby Jesus. So for me, that encapsulated what Hagia Sophia is. What I like about this image is the amount of texture that the lens and camera managed to capture. Absolutely amazing. Second one, also from Hagia Sophia. This one is a bit of a cheat because the light fell on the first decal on the left-hand side, the first motif. That was where the light was falling on. Everything on the right-hand side was in darkness. If I were to show you the original raw image, you'd see that everything on the right was in darkness. So what I did was, initially I exposed just for that light, and I was only going to keep the focus on the decal on the left-hand side, which says Muhammad. It's the name of the Prophet of Islam. In editing in post, though, I realized that I could actually just bring up, because of the dynamic range, I edited the decal on the right-hand side, which is the name of God, Allah, and I just brought the exposure up. And again, I was absolutely blown away by the detail that I could still pull from those from the shadows. Absolutely amazing. This is actually a burial site of one of the sultans of the Ottoman Empire. He's buried here along with family and friends and courtiers and so forth. What I liked about this image, though, is just the colors. If you look at the colors in the image itself, absolutely amazing. And again, combination of good sensor with a good lens. And one of my all-time favorites, shot with the 400mm f2.8. This was on a winter's day as well. You'll see I focused on the wave itself, and that's the Moses Mabhida Stadium in the background. For me, I love moody shots, and this was one of the images. As I was walking along the beach, I watched the wave. There was a bit of wind, so I knew that as the wave would crest, that spray would happen. So all I did was I just waited, and that's one thing that as a photographer, I think a lot of us need to learn to do, is just be patient at times. Especially with landscape images or shots like this, if you just a little bit of patience, you have a little bit of patience, you will get the images that you want. And my final image, I live in Durban. This was again one of my beach escapades. This encapsulates Durban for me. This was shot in winter though, so we are very fortunate to have very, very lovely winters in Durban. Shot at f5 16mm. Shutter speed of 1/8000th of a second and ISO 100. I kept the ISO low again because I wanted a little bit of detail in the foreground. I exposed a bit for the sun and so forth. If I were to show you the original raw image, you'd see the foreground is very dark. But I knew if I kept my ISO low enough, my dynamic range would be insane. And that's exactly, I got exactly what I wanted. So that's it for me on my take on these lenses. And I hand it back to Jacques.
Or Herman. Cool, guys. If you've only tuned in now, welcome. We're going to be covering some questions now, just so that you know, we're talking about G Master Glass specifically. We had Jacques and Siraz from TTL Photography talking about their experiences with G Master Glass and so on. So I have a couple of questions here, and then yeah, we'll hand over to the questions coming in from the crowd also. So the first question that I actually have, and I think I might know the answer already for Siraz, but not yet for Jacques, is if you had one lens that you could take anywhere, I mean, there's no more lenses left in the world, just this one lens. What would your lens be? I don't know who's going to answer that question first. Jacques is thinking
I'll
really
answer
hard.
I'll answer it. So that's actually a difficult question because I had a solid answer, let's say a few months back. I would immediately say to you, 35mm f1.4. That was my answer.
That's a beautiful lens.
I love that lens. It's incredible for many reasons. Like I said, I love shallow depth of field. And also, I love the range of the 35. It's wide enough to still capture a scene, but you can still kind of get portraits and go close. You can still shoot people with it. And that was like, for a long time, my walkabout lens. So I've filmed entire hiking trips with just that lens, able to get my wides and my close-ups because there's just no room for extra lenses. But then came the 24-70mm G Master. Like I mentioned earlier in my talk, I got that lens. And now I'm so torn because that lens is just incredible because you got a much wider field of view and you can go also a lot closer. So you get that awesome range. And having used it now a bit more extensively in video work, I am leaning more towards that lens. So I have to say, if I had to choose, I would probably now take the 24-70mm. So you can break it down into two categories. My favorite prime lens, if there's only one lens in the world and it had to be a prime, it would be the 35mm f1.4. And if it was a zoom lens, hands down 24-70mm. That's just the most versatile lens for video work. So this is specifically relating to video work. But again, it depends on what you do. So always when someone asks me, what's the one lens? I'll say, well, what do you do? Do you shoot landscapes? Do you shoot indoors, real estate, stuff like that? It all always differs from a kind of lens. So wildlife is a completely different story. But for video, It's going to be the 24-70mm f2.8 G Master. Yeah.
Even though it looks as if the 16-35 is my favorite lens, the 24mm f1.4, I cannot get over how good that lens is. I had that lens for, I think it was 2 weeks, and I almost never returned it. In fact, they had to remind me, Sony had to remind me to give it back. But I absolutely fell in love with that lens. And what I like about the lens is, I know everyone says that 50mm is what the eye sees. But for me, initially I thought it was 35mm. After using that lens, I'm convinced for me that 24 is what the eye see, because the peripheral vision, the peripheral view that you have, and if you look at the angular view of that 24mm at f1.4, it is absolutely amazing. And what I like about the lens as well is it's not a big lens, it's compact. So, it's just, I fell in love immediately. So I don't have one favorite lens. I love my 16-35. It's still right up there. But the 24mm for me is it. And I shoot with an R3. So if I want something a bit narrower, what I do is I go into crop sensor mode, Super 35 mode, and I've got something that's close to 50. I'm happy with that. So.
Oh.
And then we have another question here, actually. The question is 12-24. Have you shot with it before? And is it on the Black Friday deal? So I'll answer that question. Is it on the Black Friday? After we hear some experiences.
I've shot with a 12-24. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But it depends on what you want out of your images, because you need to be cognizant of the fact that if you're shooting on 12, you're shooting quite wide. In fact, I think 12mm is a bit wider than what our eyes see. So it's a lens that you need to know how to work with. But if you put in the effort, you are going to be blown away by that lens. It's an absolutely amazing lens. It's very versatile. You're looking at landscapes, you're looking at astro. We use it for bridal portraits as well. So we love that lens.
So I've actually shot with it, now that I remember, like once for a few minutes. Okay. It was during the Sony A7S III launch event in at Salter's house. A bunch of our ambassadors, we launched the event, and we had to shoot demos. A few days prior to that event, we shot some demos that demo during the event. And that's when the lens arrived in South Africa. I remember Herman was really excited. He brought it down there. Look what I got, look what I got. And because we had to shoot a lot of different scenes with different ambassadors, I only had the lens for a few minutes, and I had it on the camera. And the only thing I did is I went to 12mm and I walked around in the house, and I just focused on some subjects. And actually one of the shots in that video that we created was shot on that lens, one of the final shots. And what I saw with that lens was just, again, incredible distortion. When I say distortion, the way the lens, it blew my mind how 12mm can be rendered that well. And then also, again, the shallow depth of field. It was crazy. When you go closer to your subject, 2.8, it's crazy the depth of field that you get with that lens. And then again, I think I haven't held a lens that feels more solid than that lens. Just really feels really great the way you are. So I don't have a lot of experience with the lens, but I've seen the results. I've seen what you guys and some of our other ambassadors have created with it. And the only thing I'm saying is I can't wait until I get mine.
Cool. So actually, yes, the 12-24 is on Black Friday, and that is the big boy of savings. So up to 12,500. So get in there. Then Jacques actually already answered this question. But if you had to say your favorite zoom and your favorite fixed, I think I'll even know his answer, actually.
Well, we've said before, my favorite prime is the 24mm.
Yeah.
Favorite zoom is 16-35.
Yeah.
70-200 is good, but I don't use it that often. I love my 16-35.
I can just elaborate on that. So when I say the 35 is also my favorite prime lens, is like I mentioned earlier, what I love about Sony cameras is the ability to crop in on your video without losing quality. So there's this secret, a lot of people don't know this, but I've actually shot on the A7R series over the S series up until the S3 came out now. I preferred the R cameras for video over the S, even though the S is a video-centric camera, because of that hybrid capabilities. Like if you guys go check out my Instagram, I really love photography also, and I do some work in that. But what I love is that when you shoot in APS-C mode on those cameras, you actually get even better image. So you're not degrading the image, you're getting a better readout because of that high megapixels of a A7R. You're getting a better readout when you go into crop mode, and there's a slight improvement in image quality and even low light performance. So just if you own that camera and you didn't know that, it's a really nice workaround. But that being said, is having that 35mm and then cropping it to essentially to like a 52, it's about, we say 50mm. That is amazing. It's like having two lenses. So I can shoot on 35 right here. I can get my wide. I can walk to my subject. While I'm walking, I press a single button. I don't even have to go into the menu. It's crops immediately. I hold it up to my subject and I get a close up. That's like 50mm. That's like 2 shots in a matter of seconds. So that's why the 35mm 1.4, just getting a shallow depth of field and being able to crop in on all the Sony cameras. And yeah, like I said, 24-70 is just the most versatile lens for video. They are, like if I have to say what lens I love the most, I would say the 70-200, but I don't use it all the time. So the lens I love the most is the one that I use the most and that I get the best images from. And for me, that's the 24-70mm f2.8 G Master.
Okay, so before we actually close off, I just want to let you guys know, if you've only joined now, that's okay. These live streams will be available for the rest of the November. So they're going to be streamed with retailers. They're also going to be on the Alpha Universe, and they will also be on the YouTube channel. So, and then lastly, if you want to follow Jacques and Siraz, the handles are actually down here, underscore TTL photography underscore Jacques Crawford underscore, Jacques underscore Crawford, and then Sony Alpha SA. And then I want to let you guys know, if you want to check out the Black Friday deals, check it with the retailer specifically. There's so many things that's on the deal currently. And it's only while stocks last, and there's savings up to 12,500 Rand. And that goes for lenses and bodies.
Yeah, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. My only thing that I want to leave with you guys with is Alpha Universe. Alpha Universe-MEA. There's more to than what meets the eye. Some people go in there, they see, oh, there's only 4 events for October. Go to the past events, go check out our YouTube channel, come to our Instagram channel on Sony Alpha SA. Guys, there's something for everyone. Yeah. And there is actually a lot of value that you will also learn something. And then sometimes it's not just about learning something, it's just about getting inspired. I do the same. Some days I'm just consuming educational content so that I can broaden my skills. And other days I just watch even the same stuff that I've watched before, and just to get some inspiration. So if you're not going to learn anything, at least you're going to get inspired. And it's always good to get some inspiration in this creative industry that we're in. So yeah, that's it from me. Thank you so much.
And one thing you guys can do as well is go and check the ambassadors out. Contact us via DM or email or whatever. We are available, and we enjoy interacting with everyone. And don't only think that you can learn from us. A lot of times we learn from, we at workshops, we give workshops, and it's a give and take. So we learn from other photographers as well. But like Jacques said, the amount of information on the Alpha Universe is absolutely amazing. So check it out, register for the events, contact us. And I think just one bit of advice is keep pushing, keep pushing. Don't think that you're limited by anything. And that's what the Sony kit allows you to do. Just keep pushing, push that limit. If you need to break the rules, break the rules. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but at least you've done it. So that's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Okay, so we're going to end off the session. Stay tuned for tomorrow. Tomorrow we're talking with Marlon and Richard. Wildlife gear, the expensive stuff. It's going to be a good one. We'll see you guys tomorrow.